Good day everyone, I am the group 16 and now I'll be talking about the Bloodless Revolution in the Aquino+Ramos program. So first, what is the Bloodless Revolution? Or what does it mean? So the Bloodless Revolution, or also known as the 1986, it's a people power revolution in the programs of President Corazon Aquino and Fidel B. Ramos. This event very important in here in the Philippines history because it symbolizes the people's desires for democracy and progress. And also it explained that after years of dictatorship under Ferdinand Marcos, the Filipino people peacefully regained their freedom through the EDSA Revolution of 1986. Why it is called bloodless? Because it achieved change without violent conflict. Also, the revolution was the first peaceful revolution here in Asia, serving as a model for other nations seeking democracy. Corazon Aquino became the first president female and also began restoring democracy, while Fidel B. Ramos continued her work by promoting. Afterward, Corazon Aquino became the first president female here in the Philippines, and also she is begun restoring democracy, while Fidel B. Ramos continued her work by promoting political, social, and economic reforms to build the country. Afterward, Corazon Aquino became the first president female here in the Philippines, and also she is begun restoring democracy, while Fidel B. Ramos continued her work by promoting political, social, and economic reforms to build the country. Next, Bloodless Revolution. It's a people power revolution. It was a peaceful uprising that took place in February 1986, where millions of Filipinos came together to end the dictatorship of President Ferdinand Marcos. The revolution is called bloodless because it achieved change without violence. As a result, it resolved democracy, upheld human rights, and led to Corazon Aquino becoming the first female president of the Philippines. In short, the EDSA People Power Revolution was a peaceful movement that brought back freedom and democracy to the Philippines after years of dictatorship in the Marcos era. Next, Aquino and Ramos program, which aimed to rebuild the Philippines after the dictatorship of Ferdinand Marcos. Corazon Aquino's program focusing on restoring democracy, protecting civil rights, and approving the 1987 constitutions, which strengthened freedom and democratic governance. Fidel B. Ramos programs aim for national progress through the Philippines 2000 initiative, which promoted modernization, peace, and economic growth. In short, both leaders worked to recover the nation. Aquino rebuilt democracy and freedom, while Ramos continued by promoting development and now, let's talk about the martial law era in the Philippines, which lasted from 1972 to 1981. On September 21, 1972, President Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law, giving himself complete control over the government. During this time, freedom and democracy were limited as Marcos used his power to suppress opposition, control the media, and arrest political critics. Next, let's talk about the assassination of Benigno Ninoy Aquino Jr. on August 21, 1983. Ninoy Aquino was a prominent opposition leader who spoke out against the dictatorship of President Marcos. When he returned to the Philippines from exile in the United States, he was shot and killed at the Manila International Airport, now called Ninoy Aquino International Airport. Let's talk about the snap elections announced. On November 3, 1985, President Ferdinand Marcos announced snap election to be held in February 1986 to prove his legitimacy as leader. The election was between Marcos and Corazon Aquino. Although Marcos was declared the winner, there were widespread reports of cheating and electoral fraud which injured the Filipino people. This honesty led to the massive protests that became the EDSA People Power Revolution, forcing to Marcos step down. Now, let's talk about the key events of the EDSA People Power Revolution that happened from February 22 to 25, 1986. During this time, Defense Minister Juan Ponce Enrile and AFP Vice Chief of Staff Fidel B. Ramos withdrew their support from President Ferdinand Marcos and joined the opposition. In response, millions of Filipinos gathered along EDSA Epifanio de los Santos Avenue, that is the meaning of EDSA, and peaceful protests forming human barricades to protest the revealed shoulders and demand Marcos' resignation. In short, this event marked the peak of the Filipino Power Revolution, where Filipinos united peacefully to end Marcos' dictatorship and restore democracy here in the Philippines. Next, let's talk about the final event of the People Power Revolution on February 25, 1986. On this day, Corazon Aquino was sworn in as President of the Philippines, marking the restoration of democracy after years of dictatorships. Meanwhile, Ferdinand Marcos and his family fled to Hawaii to escape the growing public outrage and loss of military support. Next, the achievement of the Corazon Aquino administration 1986 to 1992 after the People Power Revolution. During her presidency, Corazon Aquino worked to restore democracy and civil liberties that were lost during the Marcos dictatorship. Her government also created the 1987 constitutions, which limited presidential power and restored term limits to prevent future abuse of authority. And next, let's talk about the Fidel B. Ramos administration 1992 to 1998. Fidel B. Ramos became the 12th President of the Philippines in 1992. Following President Corazon Aquino, his leadership focused on modernizing the country and boosting the economy through his program called Philippines 2000. This vision aimed to make the Philippines an industrial. Talks about the period after Fidel V. Ramos' presidency 1992 to 2000, when Joseph Erap Estrada became president. It explains that even after Ramos left office, his program Philippines 2000 continued. And now, let's talk about 1998 to 2000 after Ramos continuing the legacy. It explains that even after Ramos left office, his program Philippines 2000 continued to influence the country development and modernization goals. Additionally, the values of the People Power Revolution, such as democracy, unity, and peaceful reform, remain important parts of the Filipino identity and national spirit during this time. Also, the Bloodless Revolution and the Aquino-Ramos programs have cause and effects. First, let's talk about the causes. The of the Bloodless Revolution or People Power Revolution. It states that Filipinos become increasingly unhappy with Ferdinand Marcos's dictatorships, which was characterized by corruption, economic problems, and loss of freedom. This discontent led people to unite in demanding the restoration of democracy and human rights. After the revolution, Corazon Aquino and Fidel Ramos introduced reforms to rebuild the nation and address these issues. And also about the effects of the revolution. According to Jose Averba 1999, it says that the revolution helped restore democracy, strengthen civil rights, and inspire peaceful movements around the world. Under of the Corazon Aquino, democratic reforms were made to stabilize the country, while Fidel B. Ramos focused on improving the economy and promoting national peace. Lastly, we will talk about the significance. It explains that according to Teodoro Agoncillo 2000, the Bloodless Revolution on the Aquino-Ramos program represent the Filipino spirits of unity, peace, and freedom and reform. These events show that peace and democracy can succeed when people and come together and use their collective power. Sum up this all, the Bloodless Revolution in the Aquino Ramos programs, the revolution, according to Jose Aviva and Teodoro Agoncillo, restore democracy, strengthen civil rights, and inspire peaceful movements worldwide. Aquino's reforms helped stabilize democracy, while Ramos' policy improved the economic and national peace. Overall, the Bloodless Revolution in the Aquino Ramos program symbolized the Filipino spirit of unity, freedom, and reform, providing that peace and democracy can prevail through the power of the people. So, the bloodless revolution in the Aquino Ramos era still remaining relevant today here in the Philippines because these events remind us that the importance of unity, democracy, and peaceful change, especially as the country continues to face issues like political division, corruption, misinformation, and threats to human rights. To connect this to the current issues today, the Philippines still faces challenges that are linked to the same ideas of the ESA revolution in the Aquino Ramos programs. Corruption and abuse of power, the call for transparency and accountability continues, especially with recent controversies involving government funds and public officials, just like the flood control.